Welcome to St. Pete Decides 2017 City Council Candidate Forum, live from the City Council chambers, brought to you by the League of Women Voters.
Welcome to the City of St. Petersburg City Council Candidate Forum, facilitated by the St. Petersburg Area League of Women Voters. I'm Judith Ann McLaughlin, a longtime member of the League, and I'll be your moderator, and I'm assisted by our second Vice President, Stephanie Owens, as well as my colleagues who are around the room, recognizable by their League buttons or stickers. If you'd like to submit a question for one of the candidates, please raise your hand and one of the League members will come and take the question from you. Information about the League of Women Voters is available at the entryway and on our website, which is LWVSPA.org. Please consider joining us in the work that we do. And I'd like to mention that men have been welcomed into the League of Women Voters since 1974. Before introducing the City Council candidates, I'm going to go over some information about the rules and the format of the forum tonight, which all of the candidates have received ahead of time. Home to nearly 260,000 residents, St. Petersburg is the fifth largest city in Florida, and it operates under a system that combines the strong political leadership of the mayor with an elected city council. City council members are elected by the voters in their district during the primary election, and they're voted on at large by the entire city in the general election. They serve four-year terms and are limited to 2 consecutive terms. For more information about how the St. Pete city government works, as well as the mission and responsibilities of your elected officials, please visit stpete.org. Voter registration for the November 7th general election closes on October 10th. The deadline to request a mail ballot is November 1st. There is early voting in this general election, and that begins on October 28th and runs through November 5th. You can vote at any of the 3 Pinellas County Supervisor of Election offices. The one in St. Petersburg is at 501 First Avenue North. The format for the forum this evening was designed to give you, the audience, a chance to hear views on a wider range of questions than could otherwise be given in the time that we have. And the operative word here is forum. This is not a debate. That means the candidates will not be addressing each other. They're going to be addressing you, the audience here in the City Council chamber, and the viewing audience at home. I'm going to be asking questions that you, the audience, have submitted in writing, and we're going to be focusing on questions that most directly impact the citizens of the city of St. Petersburg. I won't be asking the same question of all 6 candidates for every round. Instead, I'll ask some questions to the entire panel, some questions to each district, progressing each set of candidates with a new question. I think the format will become clear as we move along. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for each response. And each candidate has 3 wild cards that he or she can use if he or she wants to address a question that wasn't asked to that district. We're also going to have a lightning round that asks the candidates to answer questions with yes or no answers. And each candidate is going to have 1.5 minutes in which to offer a closing statement. And we took a draw, and that order has been predetermined. The views expressed by the candidates do not represent those of the League of Women Voters or the City of St. Petersburg. Just a few rules of the House before we get started. Please double check now to make sure your cell phones are muted or off. We ask that you hold your applause until after all of the candidates have delivered their closing statements. And because this is a city building, there are special protocols. For example, there's no standing in City Council chambers during this forum tonight. So there's a panel behind me. They're reviewing the questions for legibility, clarity, applicability, and we're going to get through just as many questions as our time allows. However, if we don't get to ask your question tonight during the forum, we hope you'll take advantage of all the opportunities that there are to meet the candidates and ask them your questions privately. And I'd like to remind everyone that these races are nonpartisan, and that each of these council districts and candidates are going to be on your ballot in November, regardless of where you live. So let's welcome our 6 city council candidates here this evening. And they are seated in orders of District 2 and District 4 and District 6. And if we start immediately to my left, District 2 candidates, Brandy Gabbard and Barclay Harless. The District 4 candidates, Jarek Johnston and Darden Rice. And the District 6 candidates, Justin Bean and Gina Driscoll. And now it's time to get started. This first question is going to be directed to all candidates, and each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. And this first question will go first to Brandy Gabbard. And the question is, what is the most important issue impacting your district? What are you going to do about it? And how long will it take? Candidate Gabbard.
I believe the most important issue impacting District 2 is economic development in the Gateway area. Also walkable neighborhoods and making sure that we have pedestrian-friendly streets and that we are encouraging transportation as well. And it kind of all goes together, I think, to really build a lot of prosperity in the district. And I feel as though we can work with our small business community to help to bring more small business jobs to District 2. It's something that we're really lacking out there. And I look forward to working with the small business community and seeing how we can encourage job growth, and also working with PSTA and transportation on transportation issues there.
Well, first of all, thank you all for having me. The most important issue in District 2 is infrastructure. If we are not fixing our sewage, if we are not repairing our roads, all the other issues don't matter. When I walk the neighborhoods in Riviera Bay, the water levels are very close to overflowing. We saw with Irma that there could be dire risks that face our community. There's a 4-year period in the 2020s where there was almost $50 million in bridges alone where we don't have the funding for currently. We don't know where it's going to come from. There's going to be some tough decisions that are made over the next decade. And I think it's going to be very important that we have people that are independent thinkers, that know about financing, that know about the critical challenges we face, that are going to make these decisions for all of us, not just now, but 4 years, 8 years down the line. We need to have tough city council people who follow this through, not just when we have state consent orders. Thank you.
And for this first question, we're just going right down the line.
Okay. District 4, and I think there's, a wide variety of issues that are facing, such a unique district. Among them are improving economic development, making sure small businesses feel welcome. As a small business owner myself, making sure that we view the city as a partner and making sure the city is there to facilitate and to make owning a business and operating a business as pleasant and as enjoyable of an experience as it can be in St. Pete. And above that would be investing more in our infrastructure, in our sewer system, and in our bridges.
Good evening, everyone. I'm St. Pete City Council Chair Darden Rice, and it's great to see everybody here, and I'm proud to be part of our council that has led over making serious investments in our infrastructure issues, which impact District 4 as well as citywide. And we've put over $60 million so far into upgrades in our water treatment plants and our collection system. And we still have more to go, and it's an important priority we're going to stick to. Secondarily, District 4 has a number of traditional neighborhoods in the city. So land use issues such as historic preservation, floor area ratio issues, which is kind of wonky, but it deals with how we limit these McMansions getting shoehorned into smaller lots is a big issue. Illegal Airbnbs, all of these are land use issues, and it's a balance of how we allow businesses to flourish and people to exercise their individual property rights, but still keep it consistent with the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Justin Bean, and I'm running for District 6. I think the most important issue is the sewer system and updating our infrastructure. Our capacity issues are causing overflows, and we need to address that, number one. But specifically for District 6, we're looking at a very diverse district, a district that has the wealthiest and also has the poorest people. So we need to look at how we can bring jobs to District 6 and how we can encourage economic development so that everybody can benefit from the growth of St. Petersburg, just not the wealthy.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this important forum tonight, and thank all of you for joining us here. As I've been out talking with people in all neighborhoods across District 6, over and over again, you hear that infrastructure is on everyone's minds. We're not just talking about the sewage, we're talking about streets that need desperate repairs. We have sidewalks that are broken or don't even exist at all, bridges that need to be repaired that are aging. These are the things that people tell me every day when I'm talking to them, when I'm knocking on doors. That's something that I'm going to prioritize. The city is definitely moving in the right direction with allocating money and the work that they've done so far on these projects. I'm going to make sure we don't take our foot off the gas, that we keep moving forward to make sure that there's real progress in this area.
Thank you. So this next question is going to go to District 2. And we're going to ask candidate Harless to answer first. And the question is, what would you propose as the best economic redevelopment alternative of the 86-acre Tropicana field when the Tampa Bay Rays exit the stadium?
We have a once in our city's lifetime, once in any city's lifetime opportunity to change our downtown atmosphere and cityscape. I think number one, parking is an issue that affects a lot of businesses downtown. It should be a priority that there's a lot of parking is included in there. I know some of you probably hate when there's a Rays game and you have to find parking and you're going elsewhere, there's another event. The second thing is that I believe that the tracks and the lots that should be made in a smaller portion. We shouldn't have one big company come in and completely redevelop the Trop. I really believe also we need to look at the history of the African American owned businesses, small businesses that were there prior to the Trop being created, and keep that historical aspect in mind when we are designing what we want to do with the Trop. I think it would be great to have a headquarters or a large corporation at some point in there to bring some good jobs and some high-paying quality jobs, but I really believe we need to keep our local atmosphere there. Thank you.
Thank you.
When discussing the redevelopment of the Trop, I'm a real estate broker by trade, and so having such a large plot of land to be able to redevelop really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and one that we have to get right the first time. We're a built-out city with built-out housing stock, and we have very little land to redevelop. So I think it's important that when we're looking at this 85 acres, that we make sure that we are not only looking at business opportunity, we're looking at housing opportunity that fits a myriad of price ranges. And one of the things that I have always felt like St. Pete could use and support is a convention center style hotel of sorts. I think we all go to conventions in other parts of the state for various things, and we see that there's so much opportunity that we should be bringing that economic development and dollars back here to St. Petersburg. And I think that, it really would help to boost St. Petersburg as the world-class destination that it already is.
Thank you. I saw candidate Bean want to join in on a wild card.
Thank you. Justin Bean, District 6. I worked as a consultant on a Tropicana RFP. So in doing that, we looked at the opportunity that we have. This is the largest opportunity to develop a publicly owned piece of property in any city nationwide. It's going to be something that we do over the next 10 years, 20 years, and it's going to take a lot of work. Something that the other candidates have already talked about is how historically it was a neighborhood, the gas plant neighborhood. And we tore those buildings down and we pushed people out. So we need to make sure that we look at how we can repay that moving forward. And we need to reach out to the community, and that's something that I did as a consultant on that plan before. The other opportunities are bringing in jobs. So we need to bring in more jobs to St. Petersburg. We could bring in, there's an opportunity to bring in a headquarters there that can provide a lot of high-paying jobs that we desperately need in St. Petersburg. Thank you.
Thank you. I also saw candidate Driscoll wanted to use her wild card.
Thank you. The Tropicana field site is an area that borders several different neighborhoods. And I believe that whatever is developed there needs to reflect those neighborhoods that surround it, so that there really is a sense of ownership and a sense of community that brings together all of those neighborhoods. This area needs to be a source of entertainment and recreation that has something for everyone at all price points. I want to see workforce housing there. And just as candidate Gabbard said, a convention center or a conference center would provide a year-round strong revenue stream that we're not seeing in Pinellas County right now. It's an opportunity that we shouldn't pass up. I'm also looking at and talking with City Council about creating a citizens committee to help advise on the forward movement of this project.
Candidate Rice.
Thank you. I agree with everything that's been said, and I would add a few more things. I think, number one, it's really important to make sure that we have in the mix affordable housing, workforce housing. That is a dire need that we have across the city, and the city can play a role as a strategic partner in land acquisition by helping to keep the apartments and apartments and condos affordable. We also need to look at working strategically with our anchor institutions such as USF St. Pete and Johns Hopkins. We need to also be mindful of how we work in transit and connect to this area, not just within the city, but regionally. And lastly, I would like to see something called health in all policies included, where we look at the social determinants of health, and we look at not just paying lip service to livable, walkable communities, but we really take public health into mind with how we develop this part of our community, which is something I'm very excited about.
And Candidate Johnston.
It's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity we have to redevelop such a large piece of land. I'd like to ensure that everyone's included on this, and this is a group effort. I'd love to see a convention center. We all travel and go to conventions, and it's something I think is lacking in St. Pete and would bring in new revenue sources and allow us to kind of grow as a community.
Thank you. So this next question is going to go to District 4, and we're going to ask first Candidate Rice. And the question is, if elected, will you support the current plan for redevelopment of the pier?
Yes, and I am on record as being a strong supporter of our pier and proud of that process. And I think it's exciting. We had a lot of new people come out who were really excited about the idea of an urban design park. And, you know, the new pier is going to be the next generation's pier, and that was pretty loud and clear to all of us. You know, we've stuck to our $50 million budget for the pier head, and the additional $20 million for the pier uplands is part of the downtown waterfront master plan system. And I was a big supporter of our downtown waterfront master plan because we want to take a comprehensive look at our parklands and not have it suffer the death of 1,000 cuts. And we strategically knew that it would be better to start work on the downtown waterfront plan near the uplands of the pier, do it together while everything is under construction. And I think sometimes people forget that that additional $20 million is a separate project, not budget creep.
Thank you. Candidate Johnston.
I guess my answer would be no. I would love to see the pier head finished and created, but I'm definitely open to changing what goes on it. I want to make sure St. Pete has something that's iconic. I believe we deserve that, something the city can rally around, and something that everyone, regardless of their income, can come and enjoy and use.
Thank you. And Candidate Driscoll.
I'm very happy that we're finally moving forward with a new pier that promises to offer educational, recreation, and entertainment opportunities for, they say, whether you've got $50 in your pocket or 50 cents. I'm committed to making sure that that happens. In terms of the uplands, I'm very happy that the Downtown Waterfront Master Plan, which I worked on as part of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, is being incorporated and honored in that plan. In terms of the pier enhancements, I certainly had some questions about allocating additional money to those enhancements, but after great conversations with the mayor and some council members, I am definitely in favor of the enhancements that are going to create a world-class destination that we can all be proud of.
Thank you. This next question goes to District 6 candidates, beginning with Candidate Driscoll. And the question is, what grant writing plans are you developing for submission to alleviate homelessness for families, veterans, and the mentally ill?
Well, I will say I don't have anything in the works at this moment, but these are issues that are extremely important to me. Homelessness is something that is, a continuous struggle for us here in this city. And I've had a great conversation with Councilmember Amy Foster regarding this, as she is such a champion of that issue. In terms of alleviating that and finding solutions for that, as well as addressing those who are mentally ill and need that sort of help in our city. We don't acknowledge it enough. We don't spend enough resources and time or attention on these issues. We have to make sure that we're taking care of all of our citizens, and I vow to do that.
Thank you.
So homelessness is something that's important to me, something that I've focused on. And right now we have the Pinellas County Homeless Leadership Board, and I've worked with them on some different things. The thing that I would focus on is housing first, and it's what we're working on now. In St. Petersburg, we have vouchers that we're supposed to give landlords so that they can provide homes for people. Right now, we're having a hard time getting landlords to take those vouchers. So I would focus on either trying to recruit more landlords to take the vouchers so that we can get people into these houses, or changing the program that we're doing, incentivize these guys in a different way, but ultimately try to be effective with the policy that we're creating. The other thing besides housing first would be focusing on the younger homeless, the children that are in high school, the high schoolers, and trying to create programs for them so that they don't have to couch surf, or so that they don't have to go into certain welfare programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a great question because it gets right to the character of what city council is all about. In many ways, the functions that city government, local government provide are nonprofit in character. I sit on a few nonprofit boards. Probably my favorite is Our Club Child Care, which provides 3,500 kids, the largest in Pinellas County, with early learning opportunities. And I really believe with some of these issues, when you're talking about livelihood, someone's life, how they become homeless, it really begins early, and it gets right to the character of the nature of City Hall, and it is very nonprofit in orientation. So I think that's important, and it's also important to stress how many LGBTQ youth there are that have become homeless, unfortunately, because of their situations. And I think that's something that we really have to focus on and think about for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're coming up on our first lightning round, and we're going to start with candidate Harless, go down the line, and then wrap up with candidate Gabbert. And here's the question. It's for a one-word answer. In one word, what do you feel is lacking in St. Petersburg city government?
Small business experience.
That's
Small business support.
My list is so long. No, just, I'd like to see us have more technological support.
Nonpartisanship.
smart development.
The voice of working families.
Okay, thank you. This next question will also go to all of the candidates. And we're going to start with candidate Johnston, and then work down, and then come back and finish with candidate Harless. And here is the question. St. Pete Pride is the largest in the state and continues to grow. Do you plan on supporting the event and LGBTQ community this year and beyond? Why or why not?
Absolutely. Am I supposed to go into more detail?
You have 60, sorry, thank you
Oh,
for
I thought it was
clarifying.
lightning round.
This, it's not lightning. This one is 60 seconds for each of you.
Absolutely, yes. I believe we need to embrace everybody in St. Pete and make it a warm and welcoming place where everyone feels welcome and supported.
Thanks for that answer, Jarek. When I first ran for office in 2005, I was the first openly gay candidate to ever run in Pinellas County politics. And back then, I took a lot of heat for it, and I was attacked. But just in a few years, it's amazing how much our city has changed. Now, 3 out of 8 of our council members are openly gay. We have a city that's fantastic because we're diverse, we're tolerant, we wear it on our sleeve, and and this diversity extends to everybody. So, of course, I support it's one of the country's, or certainly the Southeast largest gay pride parades. I'm happy to support it, and I think it's interesting how it grows and changes, that it may kind of be growing out of the Kenwood area into downtown. It'll be interesting to see how it continues to evolve in the next few years.
Thank you. Candidate Bean.
Absolutely, I would support the Pride Parade. I think it's a great event. It's a lot of fun, and it's something that's near to my heart. Last year, I attended and worked a truck raising money for St. Pete Young Professionals. This year, I marched and joined some of my good friends. And you know, St. Petersburg is an amazing place because it's open to these types of ideas and these events, and it doesn't turn people away. We're diverse, and I'm very proud of that, and I'll support that 100%.
I'm very supportive of St. Pete Pride, and I was quite proud this year to be invited to be on the Watermark Float, which is a publication that for many years has served as a resource and a beacon for the LGBT community here and in Orlando. As the float came around the Vinoy and you saw across Straub Park the sea of people who were just happy and proud. I had tears in my eyes. I don't think there's ever been a moment where I've been so proud to be in this city and be part of it. I grew up in a family, a big family. I'm the oldest of 6. Everyone was welcome in our house. So I think it's fitting that now I live in a place where everyone is welcome. And you better believe that every single day I'm going to be looking for ways to make us even more inclusive.
Thank you.
So absolutely. One of the most wonderful things about actually running for office this year was getting to be in the parade instead of just a spectator. It was, as Gina said, such a beautiful experience coming around that corner and feeling that support. And the beautiful diversity in St. Petersburg is what makes it special. It's what makes me proud to be in St. Petersburg. I'm raising my child here, and I get to raise him in a community that is so inclusive. And I absolutely will always continue to support that parade and that movement, as I always have. Regardless of who is mayor, I would always advocate to raise that flag high during Pride Week because I think it's important, and I absolutely will always give 100%.
I think the Pride should be supported 100%. I'm not, I don't think by any means a new friend of the LGBTQ community. I sit on Equality Florida's advisory board for the Competitive Workforce Act, which is an effort to change state law to make our businesses more competitive here in the state. Supporting our diversity means supporting our small business community. I've been endorsed by 40 small businesses here in the city of St. Pete, many of whom are LGBT owned. And that's important to me. I also would like to say this wasn't my first Pride walking. I've walked before. I love the event. I think regardless of where the event is held, it should be supported by the city, not just public safety, but supported in other ways, 100%, no matter the location. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have time for another lightning round question, and this will be a yes or no answer. We're going to start first with candidate Rice, go to the end, and then wrap around. Here's the question. Do you support the Defend Our Democracy ordinance, banning super PACs and foreign influence in our elections?
Y-E, yes. Y-E-S, yes.
I'm a no.
Absolutely, yes.
No.
It's a difficult question. I would have voted no.
No.
Okay, thank you. This next question goes for all of the candidates. This time we're going to start with candidate Bean and then wrap around. Following Irma, there's been growth in research circulating about rising sea levels and warming waters, making hurricanes worse. With this in mind, would you reconsider zoning regulations and building permits near the shorelines?
Yes, I think it's obvious with the hurricane season and this weather in general that we can see rising tides and climate change. How we legislate based on that is the important part. Right now, we're working to improve our FEMA ratings, which is the community rating standards. The lower our rating, the less we pay in flood insurance. So as we work towards these zoning changes along the shorelines, we can improve our CRS rating and save you money on your flood insurance. So I think that's where I would start with changes, and I would be welcome to other ideas.
You'll all get this question, so we're going to start with me and go to candidate Driscoll next.
We were very fortunate not to have had a worse situation with Hurricane Irma, but we all learned a lesson. It's got our attention, and I think this is a perfect time for us to address some of those issues. I think the city's done a great job in changing the requirements for new build to make sure that we're more ready and prepared for that kind of impact. I think we can do more, and I think we need to look at those in low-income neighborhoods who have older houses to look at new technology and ways that we can help shore up those homes as well so that they too can be protected. We have to make sure that it's not just along our coastlines, but in those other low-lying areas that can be affected and can really hurt someone's livelihood in a situation that could be worse than what we have now. Thank you.
As a flood insurance advocate at the national level for about the last 5 years, this is an issue that I've worked on. I actually advocate for affordable and attainable flood insurance for people all across the country, but specifically here in Pinellas County, as this is ground zero for this particular issue. We are greatly affected by rising sea levels, climate change, and it's addressing affordability, and it's making it more affordable or less affordable for people to actually be able to live here in St. Petersburg. This is something I would continue to work on as a city council person. I've set for the last year plus on the committee that Justin was just talking about, which has actually worked on the community rating system and provided those discounts to the citizens of St. Petersburg. It's something that I'm an expert in, I'm very passionate about, and I will continue to work on once I'm elected.
Thank you for the question, and Brandy's right. District 2 is literally ground zero for potential issues that relate to climate change. If you walk those neighborhoods, you will see the risk. I'm very pleased to be supported and endorsed by the Sierra Club. One of the issues we often talked about in our interviews was the future of this city, where we can have an impact and what we can change. If we're going to build our future, infrastructure is the first part, and that is also our stormwater system, which our plans are, I believe, 20 years old. We need to update them. We need to continue to focus on those issues so that when water lands in our community, that water can get out into the bay as quick as possible without impacting our area. I think it's also important to notice that there are state and national issues, and then there are issues that we can control here in local government. I think those are the issues that we need to be focused on here and now, what we have the control of, what we can affect, and how we have independent thinkers, separate from any industry, who will make these decisions for all of our residents. Thank you.
Yes, I would be open to reconsidering it. Sea level rise is, often changing how we need to look at zoning issues and our zoning requirements. We were very lucky with Irma, and I think we need to take the lessons we learned from that and update accordingly.
We want the city of St. Pete to be a city that's fully ready for the challenges of the 21st century, including the challenges of a changing climate, which includes sea level rise, stronger storms, perhaps more frequent storms, and increased precipitation along the coast. Under my leadership, we created the Sustainability, Energy, and Natural Resources Committee, which has been the committee that's really delved into the policy and the details of our resiliency and our sustainability planning, and specifically looking at, we've put money towards our vulnerability mapping that we've worked on with the county. It was that committee that worked to improve our CRS rating so that the 26,000 houses in St. Pete that are slab on grade will get better insurance rates and save an aggregate of millions of dollars. Those are the kinds of things that City Council can do, but we've got to look at we've got to be bold. We have to be honest. We have to look at a different way of building our city, planning our city, even our business models.
Thank you. This next question is going to go to District 2, beginning with candidate Gabbard. And we've got a number of questions here regarding public transportation. And one audience member is asking, any thoughts on how we can get a light rail system going in St. Petersburg?
Well, Green Light Pinellas was an initiative that I was very proud to work on and was very passionate about. I believe in multimodal forms of transportation, and light rail is one of those. Didn't really have a whole lot of impact up in the northern part of the county, but here in St. Petersburg, there was a lot of appetite for it. So I think it's something that we need to continue to talk about. We need to talk about funding sources for that, and if it's something that St. Petersburg is still excited about, like they were a few years ago, then I think that we have a great opportunity to be the leader in that sort of initiative. So yes, it is something that I'm definitely in favor of.
Thank you.
Yes, I think multimodal is 100% the way that we have to go. If you look at the popularity of the ferry that crossed that we had for trial run, you see other methods of transportation are important, and our community will continue to use them and invest in them. Look, when you're on city council, you're one of 8 people. You have to work with the mayor. You have to work with everyone else. We're also one of, I don't know how many cities in both Pinellas and in Hillsborough County. We can't go it alone. We're going to have to work with other entities, with T-BARTA, with our partners across the bay. If we're not doing that, we're going to have a transportation system that only works for part of the area. And we all know that everybody drives across the bay every single day. As someone who lives next to the Gandy Boulevard, I'll tell you that I'm thankful that Jim Kennedy has been our city councilman. On the MPO, he basically had an opportunity to take money that was going to go to Miami to build the Gandy overpasses. And I think that is a strong thing that we have going for our district. And I look forward to continuing, if possible, his legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we have a question for District 4, and candidate Johnston will go first. What kind of programs do you intend to create or sponsor that will help initiate economic prosperity in the South Side?
I think creating opportunities for people to start their own business is one of the biggest things we can do. Let people have a say in their own future. But I think from a larger standpoint, creating new ways to create educational opportunities in that area would greatly help give people the tools and skills necessary to help them prosper and succeed.
Well, I'm a proud supporter of the Southside CRA Community Redevelopment Area and TIF District, which is one way that we're going to be able to drive about $130 million over the next 30 years to the South Side to be available for grants, not just for brick and mortar redevelopment, but also for wraparound services that address ways to get people out of poverty, not just addressing the symptoms. I created the Wage Theft Prevention Office, which has since been taken over by the county to help people who are victims of wage theft, because we have a lot of people that are living paycheck to paycheck. On top of that, I'm looking forward to working with the St. Pete Healthy Foundation on a number of projects that are, again, go to public health issues on the South Side. And it's exciting, the work that we're doing, and it's one of the most important things that we're working on here at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw candidate Gabbard.
As a mother, I understand that early childhood education is one of the most important factors to overcoming disparity issues overall. And so I believe that, there's already been $250,000 allocated through the city for early childhood development. I would like to see that increased because I believe that we need to start investing in our children much, much younger and much earlier. And I also would want to see us work more on financial literacy programs for young people and for adults so that we are helping them to understand how to break the cycle of poverty themselves. So those are two initiatives that I think would be very instrumental to growth in Midtown.
Thank you. Candidate Bean.
So we talked about the Southside CRA and the grant process for someone to get approved for a grant is sometimes difficult to navigate. And so I would look at how to reach out to folks to make it easier for people to apply for grants so they know how to do it. And I would look at the requirements that are there for getting a grant. So one, I would look at reforming that, making that as effective as possible so that we get that money into the hands of people so that they can start businesses, so that they can do things that they need to do. I would also look at how do we get a grocery store on the Tangerine Plaza. We need businesses in the community that people can get to instead of being bussed out of the community. That's a big part of our district, District 6. I would also, Brandy talked about early childhood education. That's a big thing for me. I would look at how we can improve and expand access to that so that people don't have to work just to pay for their kids to go to, daycare and things like that.
Candidate Driscoll.
I've been mostly very pleased with how the Southside CRA has been operating, and it's very nice to see that they have a Citizens Advisory Committee, which brings ideas from within the community to move it forward economically. That's what this really has to be about, is building community wealth from within. It's not about me coming to you and saying what I think you need to do in your neighborhood. Come to me, let's talk about it. There are things that people have in mind that could really be a game changer in that area. I want to be helpful in the way of providing resources and guidance to make those things happen. I want that community to know that they don't have to sit around and wonder what happens next. They can be what happens next. I'm going to be there for them to make that happen.
Candidate Arliss.
Thank you. My first job out of college was working in Midtown for 4 years. It changed my outlook on life. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know before. Rick Scott had done some policies at the state level that made ex-felons getting jobs a real challenge. And I'll never forget the conversations, the mothers that called in, the grandmothers that called in, that knew that their child had done his time, was coming out, and was not able to find a legitimate job, and they were going to go back to crime. And they called, and that changed my outlook. Obviously, I'm an advocate for early learning. I've sat on a board for 4 years. I've given my own money, my own time. It's something I care passionately about. It also affects the future and changes our children. We can't be in the business of running the school system. I also believe that the CRA dollars should be used south of Central. When we look at and examine those funding projects, we need to look and make sure that they're not being used for other purposes outside of that. The tax base is south of Central, and I believe that those are the people that should benefit from that. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question goes for District 6 candidates, and Candidate Bean will respond first. Military equipment has been added to many armories and departments nationwide. Do you deem it necessary to equip St. Pete police officers with this kind of tactical gear to keep our communities safe?
I think, when you say military gear, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but as far as it goes, supporting our police officers, they're a front line. They're out there working for us and protecting our communities. So I would try to do whatever I can to support them. Right now we don't have enough police officers on the street to do the jobs that we need to do. So we need to look at how we can expand funding for the police. And honestly, I think that's the main thing that we need to focus on. One of the policies that Chief Holloway has focused on was Park, Walk, and Talk, which I think is a great way to get out in the community, community policing. So you focus on getting to know the people that you're there. You're not only there to protect, but you're also there to serve. So let's give the guys the resources that they need to do their job and let them do that.
I don't believe that it's necessary or appropriate to militarize our police department. St. Petersburg is better than that. We're a community, and we look out for each other. And what our police department does under the great guidance of Chief Holloway is nurture and grow those relationships between our police force and our community. Park Walk and Talk is just one of those examples. But in terms of bringing in any kind of new equipment, I'll be talking with Chief Holloway to see what he thinks. He's the expert. I want to know if shot spotter technology is something that we need to look at, body cams, all of those sorts of things that keep our police officers safe and keep our community safe. That's what we need to focus on.
Thank you. This next question is a lightning round question that will start with candidate Driscoll and then wrap around this way. And this is for a yes or no answer. Do you believe in human-caused climate change? And will you support adaptation and mitigation efforts in St. Pete?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
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 Okay, thank you. And this next question also goes to every candidate with a 60-second response. And we're going to start with candidate Gabbard and then go down the line. What are some actions and initiatives that you will pursue to attract higher wage positions into the city? And how will you support low-wage workers with rising rents and weak wage hikes? I guess, why don't we stick with this? Sorry, I didn't realize there was two questions on this. No, you can't. So, okay, let's start. Let's just do the first one, which is how will you attract higher wage positions in St. Pete?
So I happen to work, or my husband actually happens to work at a facility that was encouraged to come from Cambridge, Massachusetts a few years back. And so I've firsthand seen what can happen whenever you bring good jobs into the area, good high-paying jobs and tech jobs. These are what we need in order to be able to continue to grow and attract new talent to the area. So I would want to work within City Council and with the other members of City Council and with the mayor to try to attract more jobs like that through some incentive programs, working with Tallahassee on any sort of job creation incentive programs as well that we may be able to bring to the city, because I believe that, you know, we have the talent here to be able to support those jobs, and we need to be growing those more. And so that's how I would do it.
Yeah, I'm very circumspect on any government using tax dollars to attract other businesses. That's just my own personal policy. I've donated some time with the St. Pete Chamber of Commerce, and when you look at why large businesses are trying to relocate to our area, the first thing they don't look at is the incentives. They're looking at the school system. They're looking at our roads. They're looking at the education that is going to be available to their employees that they're trying to attract. And it's often those big ticket items. If we don't get them right, those companies aren't going to come here. I'm extremely circumspect anytime the government is going to be picking winners and losers in the business community. As far as low-wage workers and affordable housing, I think this is extremely important. I think one way we can make affordable housing projects work that are privately owned and privately run is by managing city-owned land for those projects. I believe there's a city purpose for this. I think it benefits our constituents and our people. And let me tell you, the AFL-CIO and the trade unions, they are good paying jobs, and they're downtown. The downtown uniform of our workers is not a suit, it's a construction worker. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. I think it's a question of creating incentive programs for small businesses and attracting larger businesses so we have more jobs in the area. So these jobs will naturally pay more and offer more. Also within that would be the need for affordable housing, so everyone has a place here in St. Pete, and creating educational opportunities so people can go after those you know what I'm trying to say, those jobs that pay more. Thank you.
Over the last 3 years, this city has proactively embarked on long overdue strategic environment 2, but economic strategic plans, the Grow Smarter strategy, the Innovation District, the Greenhouse Plan, Skyway Marina District, Southside CRA, and all of these intertwine in different ways. But I think one thing that we really need to focus on is looking at is our community offering vocational opportunities where people can link up with jobs that are available in healthcare, in technology, in financial services, even marine science? Because I would like the city to be a place where anyone can go back to vocational school. Not everybody's fit for four-year college, get the training in 2 or 4 years, and be able to get a decent middle-class paying job.
So we're talking about how to create higher paying jobs, bring them to the city. Amazon is looking for another corporate headquarters, so Bezos, if you're listening, come talk to us about the Trop site. But seriously, the things that people look for when they want to create jobs here is, do their employees have somewhere to live, and is it affordable? And are the schools going to educate my family and my children? So we have to look at how to improve our education system, and I have a plan to do that through early education. And we have to look at how we can improve our housing stock and make it more affordable for people that are in the mid-range income area. We can do that through innovative housing types that are denser and make housing more affordable, because we're built out in St. Pete. We don't have anywhere to go besides up. So those two things, education and housing, are the priorities, as well as Bezos. Come on.
You can attract the best companies in the world to our city. But if we don't have the workforce that can take those jobs, those high-paying jobs, they have to bring in their own people. That does nothing to help the people who live here. So the focus really needs to be on education, workforce, housing, of course, so that people have a place to live and a place where they can live while they learn. Vocational training is extremely important. We have to nurture a community, a workforce that's ready to take those jobs when they come in. If we do those things, if we have an educated workforce ready to take the jobs, if we have housing that people can actually afford, we don't need to offer incentives. We don't need to spend the money. They'll automatically want to come here. Let's make a place that's attractive enough for that.
Thank you. This next round will go to all candidates as well. We will begin with candidate Johnston and then go down the line and wrap back around. One thing that attracts me to St. Pete is baseball. How can we keep the Rays here?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm open to working with the Rays and hearing them out and seeing what their needs are. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't have a perfect answer. I don't think anyone does. But I'm willing to listen and work with them and come up with a solution to keep them here, because I want them here.
Well, I want to keep the Rays here too, but they don't want to stay. And we need higher ticket sales. Hello? I mean, they're down like 10,000 to 12,000 seats every game. We need our corporate businesses to step up to help with ticket sales, but so far that just hasn't been cutting it. So we have to be a partner and work with them. I supported the memorandum of understanding to let the Rays look in Hillsborough County, because if they do decide to stay at the Tropicana site, I want to make sure that they've done their due diligence to look around and make sure that they know that St. Pete is where they can have a home and have the right stadium and have the right attendance. But right now, realistically, let's just be honest, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So we need to be smart and look ahead. And we're winners anyway with that 85 acres of redevelopment, with or without a stadium, with or without a baseball team.
So I would love to keep the Rays here in St. Petersburg, and I've met with the president of the Rays, Brian Allen, and talked to him. And based on that conversation, I think they want to stay in St. Petersburg, but the question is, how do we get them the support, or how do they get their own support so that they can be a viable business here, sell more tickets? They have the highest ratings on TV, but they don't have the best ticket sales. So that's on them. As a city, there's nothing that we can really do about that besides trying to organize different things like Baseball Forever, which I've been a part of. Love to support the team. But if you're looking at other locations, so if they don't want to stay on the Trop site, there are other locations in the city that would work. And I would work with them to try to work out any deal possible, but I'm not a proponent of spending public money on private interests.
I too am a big fan of the Rays. I love going to the baseball games. And I certainly hope that we can find a way for the Rays to stay here in St. Petersburg, whether it's at the Trop site or elsewhere within the city. But more importantly, I want to make sure that if we do have an agreement with the Rays, that it's something that is beneficial to the city as well as to the team. I know that there's a lot of talk about should we spend money on a stadium. I think that there is some money that already could be allocated for that. I'm not in favor of any kind of a new tax to pay for a stadium. In the end, you know, the Rays are going to do what's best for their business. And excuse me, I'm confident that the city will do what's best for the city and its residents.
So, of course, I would want the Rays to stay here in St. Petersburg first. If not, then in the region. I would love to see that happen. But I've come out before and said it, and I'll say it again. I'm not going to advocate for tax dollars to build a new stadium. I think we have a lot of big issues that we need to be spending money on, and that is not a priority to me at this point in time. And I would be willing to spend money on infrastructure around the redevelopment of the Trop site, but not specifically for a stadium itself.
Yes, I think there's no way about it. St. Pete is a major league city. Where it's our social scene, where it's our business, anything else, we are a major league city. I'm very much in agreement with what Darden said. I just don't think that they want to stay. I would have voted for the MOU. I think that people should be allowed, private enterprise should be allowed to do what they can. I can tell you that I put out a statement a while back, you know, and not one dime for a stadium of city funds until our core government requirements, the things that we are responsible for as a city body, are taken care of and paid for. That includes our infrastructure. That includes all the other core services that we provide. I think that's extremely important. I think the message that sends to all the taxpayers and all the businesses that are paying taxes, and they may not reside here, I think is a strong one. Their city is going to look at the core issues that affect them first. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will go to all of the candidates for a 60-second response, and we'll start with candidate Bean and then wrap around. And the question is, how can we better help members of the community to prepare for a hurricane, help people with limited resources be able to prepare for the next hurricane?
So I think we need to learn from this storm and look at what we did right and look at what we did wrong, take those lessons and put together a plan to help address where we were weak. So one thing would be to, you know, kind of come back through what everything was and talk about that. Maybe we could have some sort of roundtable or a meeting where the leaders come together from the county, from the city, and the different areas to talk about what they learned, put those things down, and try to implement them for the future.
I was so impressed with the way that our city and its residents prepared for this storm. The preparation was unbelievable. Everyone was on their toes. We were very fortunate the way that we got through the storm, and it was really quite something to see Monday morning before 8 o'clock, city workers on the a block over from me removing branches from the street. We did a lot of things right. We also learned some lessons. I want to look at ways that we can be more prepared, as in terms of the things that we had shortages of days before the storm. How can we get people to get those things in May instead of a few days before the storm hits? Another thing that really, really concerns me is the way that nursing homes and ALFs are handled. That's something that I'm going to be focused on when I'm on city council, to make sure that they too are protected before, during, and after the storms.
I also think that there's some great opportunity for educating our residents earlier on in the storm season before we get into the thick of it about getting themselves ready, getting themselves prepared, getting their hurricane supplies. And I think that's an educational opportunity for the city to be able to connect with their neighborhoods and their residents. Also advocating for programs that are out there that help people to harden their homes, especially, people in lower incomes. I think that is something that we as the city could be educating people a little bit more on. A lot of us went without electricity. And, there wasn't a whole lot we could do to prepare beforehand for that at that particular moment. But I think we've learned some lessons from that. And looking back, the Skyway Marina District, they're going to be talking about burying lines there. I think that's something I'd like to see a long-term plan for citywide. And then also keeping Duke accountable to keep those trees off those lines so that we don't have such an issue next time.
I think, first and foremost, every resident should save into their cell phone the Duke Energy customer service line. Make sure they have that readily available. In all seriousness, our community really came together. I was visiting with a friend of mine, Mike, who lives at the Signature Place, and he went out and bought a bunch of tarps and drove to some of the poorer areas of our community. And when he would see a tree that had penetrated a house, he would leave a tarp at their front door so they were able, when they got back, to have that readily available. We have a strong city. We have a great bunch of people living and working in this city. I think without going into the details of the nitty-gritty about how to prepare with trees and whatnot, I really believe everything we can do to make our community more resilient for the future, because we're going to have more of these storms, and we're not always, frankly, going to get lucky like with Irma. And I really believe that we focus on our infrastructure, we focus on our stormwater planning, and we make sure we save Duke Energy's customer service line. I think we'll be a little bit better off. Thank you.
We were very lucky with this storm, and I think we're still learning what lessons need to be known. We need to sit down together as a community and create a plan, and I think a large piece of that is going to be public education, making sure people know that they can't wait till the last minute, making sure people are prepared for the whole hurricane season. And I think we need to work with Duke to make sure that the trees are trimmed and that do everything we can to minimize power loss.
I was on the phone with the mayor at least twice a day during the crisis, and I think the city did a really good job, and I think our first responders and our workers just really put in a grade A effort. Some things were clear that we can do better next time. We did see that with shelters, people with special medical needs but had pets, often the shelters could take one or the other, and we've got to look at those dual needs next time. We also need to work on better advanced time coordination with the state, because if we're looking at a Cat 4 or Cat 5, we really have to evacuate and get out of here. But with so many other people in the state evacuating, and the main roads to get out of South Florida are 75 and 95, we need to work a little bit better on how the whole state evacuates. Lastly, unfortunately, we saw some injuries and a death because people forget that you're not supposed to bring generators inside, and there were fires related to candles. So we've just got to keep up our basic 101 safety and drill it in. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have a lightning round question, and we will start with candidate Driscoll and then wrap around. So a yes or no answer. Do you believe that St. Petersburg should be a sanctuary city for undocumented residents?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next question will go for all candidates, and we will start with we just did that. I think this time we will start with candidate Harless and then wrap back around. Will you move forward with solar power? Or how would you move forward with solar power?
It's a great
solar.
question. It goes right to what our little pond, what we control in the world, how we can affect our community, how we can affect the future for every human being on the face of this planet. Number one, solar incentives should be offered, if anything. I do not believe the financial burdens of forcing someone, not that this was a legitimate plan that was put forward, but I do not believe that forcing someone whenever they're doing a large roof repair or something of that nature to have to invest in solar is a burden that we should place on our residents. I think first and foremost, we can look at city properties, and this is not just for the benefits of enhancing our output or lowering our output of fossil fuels that we do as a city. You know, our police station is going to have solar panels now. So that means is that when we have a natural disaster like a hurricane and whatnot, the power companies always restore power to the critical services, 911, and obviously our police first. They're going to have an independent battery source, and I think that's important. So we need to continue to invest in a non-mandated way. Thank you.
I think we need to create opportunities to allow people to have access to this new technology. And, you know, it's an amazing new technology that can have really positive impacts in our community. You know, I believe in creating incentives, not mandates. You know, we don't want to hurt property owners. So, yes.
Our land development regulations have incentives for solar that I strongly support, and I strongly support strengthening those incentives. Also, I was very proud to vote for allocating $375,000 of our BP lawsuit money to support the Solar Energy Loan Fund and also to support solar co-ops. And what this does is, and especially for people with low incomes, it allows people to get over that initial obstacle of paying for upfront costs to pay for things like solar. That's the biggest obstacle to going solar, going green, even though we see a return on investment over several years. So I think the city plays a really good role with working with the Solar Energy Loan Fund to make solar more available for people of all incomes.
So solar is a great way for us to be environmentally friendly, and I would support incentives for homeowners to add solar to their own properties. I would also look at, you know, the cost of solar and how we can move forward with that on public buildings. And then I would also look at our contract with our energy providers and our utilities and what amount of solar energy they're buying and if they can buy more, because, you know, a certain amount of it is required now, but in order for them to be able to provide power for us at all times, it has to be a mix. But if we can look at how we can expand the amount of solar energy that they're purchasing, that they then provide us, ultimately we're having a positive effect.
It's encouraging to see how much the price of solar has dropped recently, and it's becoming more and more feasible for more families. I want to make sure that it's feasible for every family. We're making moves in that direction. I want to see more meaningful incentives that really get people's attention and make them give this some consideration. That involves education. I think that communicating what solar does for them and how that can impact their bills, for one thing, and also contribute to taking care of our environment. It's very important. Let's help get the word out there better. The solar co-op that has been established seems to be very successful so far. You want to make sure people know about that and also about the low-interest loans that are available. Education and communication are the key. I think we can make this happen for a lot of people in St. Petersburg.
So I think that, as Jenna was saying, education, I think this is an example of a great educational opportunity that we have with our residents to support the solar co-op, to support the loan programs. I think all of these things are wonderful. I would advocate for the city to be working towards making sure all of their buildings are more energy efficient, and that does include solar, so that's something that I think we have a great opportunity for there. For commercial buildings, maybe we can do some sort of permitting preference for people who are putting solar in. Maybe that's something that we can look at. As far as residents, though, I would never support mandates on people to do solar on their residential properties. I think it impedes the opportunity for affordable housing, it impedes new development, and it impedes people working on their homes and fixing up their homes, and sometimes can be the make it or break it whenever you put a mandate like that on. So mandates, certainly not. Incentives, I would be much in favor for.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering all of the questions on a wide variety of issues. Now we've come to the section for closing remarks. Each candidate has 90 seconds to deliver closing remarks, and the order of these was chosen at random before the forum. And the first candidate will be candidate Harless.
First of all, thank you so much for coming here. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you, and most importantly, to listen. It's always been a saying of mine that I prefer listening. I've never learned anything in life by talking. I'm a fifth-generation Floridian. I've been involved in a lot of nonprofits, and it's the causes that I care about that I give my time to. I also have been endorsed by the current holder of this seat, Jim Kennedy. He's become a friend of mine. Councilwoman Lisa Wheeler-Bowman has also supported me, as well as various other groups. I want to take a moment to discuss one of my answers, and I think it gets to a key point here. We are asked yes or no questions, and I respect that, but our society is not a yes or no society. The fact of the matter is that I support the ideas behind removing money from politics. I am circumspect about using city funds to defend that at this point in time. I will say that I do put my money where my mouth is. I'm committing here and now that I will not support or allow outside groups to spend more than the legal allowable limits on a political action committee on my behalf. I will not campaign or advocate on that. I chose not to have a PAC and not to be involved in a PAC because I believe that money has poisoned our political system. It prevents good decisions from being made and good people from running for office. I would encourage everybody on this stage to do the same. Thank you so much. Please come say hi and ask me any questions you have. Thank you.
So one of the things that we didn't get to talk about this evening is what distinguishes you from your opponent. And I think that it's very important when you're looking at who to choose in these races that you're very clear on what distinguishes them. It's your values, it's your principles, and it's the lens of which you see the city. I'm raising a child in our community. I am a small business person in this community, and I see this city through that lens. I want to be the voice of everyday people in our city, people who are raising children here and working families, people who just want to be able to call St. Petersburg home at all affordability levels. And that's something that I'm passionate about. I want to make sure that we are supporting our neighborhoods. I'm the only candidate in my race that's been endorsed by both the police and the firefighters union, and I'm very, very proud of that because that is a great example of how I would support public safety in the community and our neighborhoods. We're a city of neighborhoods, so that's something that's very important to me. I would always have an open door policy, so I would encourage you to reach out to me starting now. My website is brandy4stpete.com, and all my contact information is on there. I want to talk to you, the residents, so please reach out to me, call me, ask me your questions you didn't get to ask tonight, and I hope I can count on your vote November 7th.
Candidate Driscoll.
I'm Gina Driscoll. I'm running for St. Petersburg City Council in District 6. Thank you all for these great questions tonight. You know, I got into this race because I've been serving my community for years. This is an opportunity for me to do even more for all of St. Petersburg so that we can make this an even better place that we can be proud of. Over the last several months, I've knocked on a lot of doors and talked to a lot of people throughout my district and now across the city. And I have come to the conclusion that the way that we make our city stronger is to make our neighborhoods stronger. I have a great deal of experience in working with my own neighborhood association where I'm president this year, and I've served on the board for many years. Neighborhoods are about the residents, but you know, they're also about the businesses. I serve on the board of the Downtown Business Association. I've spent years listening to people, and today you go out and what you really hear from people is their concerns are about what's going on right outside their front doors. I'm listening to that. I'm ready to partner with them and work with them to make their neighborhoods stronger. They talk about things like infrastructure, not just the sewage, but their sidewalks are broken or they don't exist at all. The streets need to be improved. The bridges need to be improved. These are quality of life issues for these people. Public safety, very important. Education, very important. These are the things that I'm passionate about too, and these are the things you're going to see me working on, continuing to listen to everyone. That's why I hope that you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bean.
Everybody, my name's Justin Bean, and I'm running for District 6. I would love to take this time to talk about the issues because this is a municipal race and the issues are ultimately the most important thing. But unfortunately, this race has become extremely partisan, and I'm disappointed by that. There's no secret that I'm a Republican, and I've been attacked for being that. I attended a inauguration. I was invited to go. But Cory Booker, Hillary Clinton, and even Charlie Crist were there as well. You know, I'm really upset with what the president has done, attacking the LGBT community, his denial of climate change, and dividing this nation. And I don't want to see that happen to our city. So I want to run a race that's focused on the issues. I want to talk about the things that we need to do to move this city forward, and I'm committed to that. You can look at my resume. You can look at what I've been doing for this city. You know, I've focused on starting nonprofits like the Williams Park Partnership. I've served the committee, I serve the city right now on the Complete Streets Committee. I was appointed to the Peer Upland Selection Task Force. I help run a program for youth and help them when they get in trouble, Sail Future. So I look forward to serving you as your city councilman and would love to speak with you about your vote.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Darden Rice, District 4, Chair of City Council, and wrapping up my first term, and I humbly ask for your vote. I love this job. Even on the bad days, I love it. There is everything so great about this city, the direction that we're headed in, and the incredible things that we're working on. It's really an honor. A real quick voter education announcement. No matter where you live in the city, you can vote in all of our races. I talked to somebody yesterday who was like, Darden, I can't vote for you. I don't live in District 4. Well, in the general election, no matter where you live, you can vote in all of our council races. And I hope you do. Please get registered to vote. Your vote is your voice. Your vote is so important. I'm a dependable individual leader in my own right. I'm a team player on council because I believe you elected me to go to council, to come to City Hall, to work proactively and cooperatively with everybody. And I'm a regional leader as well. I'm a transportation leader. I'm in my second year chairing PSTA. I'm on MPO, T-BARTA, just recently on T-BARTA. I'm an environmental leader. And for the first time ever, our city is looking comprehensively at our overall approach to sustainability planning so that we can drive sustainability planning into the DNA of our city. And I'm a leader for our economic development and neighborhood efforts. I humbly ask for your vote. Again, my name is Darden Rice, District 4. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. My name is Jarek Johnston. I'm running for the District 4 spot. Firstly, thank you so much to the League for hosting us tonight and to everyone for coming out. As a lifelong resident, as a college student, and as a small business owner, I'm passionately committed to making St. Pete the best place to live, to work, and to play. I believe that we can create world-class services for all our citizens, increase our economic diversity and growth, and ensure that we listen to the needs of all of our citizens. I'm willing to put in the time to do the research to come up with unique ways to help St. Pete prosper, and I look forward to serving. And once again, my name is Jarek Johnston. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the candidates for stepping forward to lead, to being here at the forum to answer our questions, to all of you for being here to listen to what they have to say here in the audience and on television. Just a friendly reminder that the voter registration deadline for this election is October 10th for the November 7th general election. There's early voting, and you can request a vote by mail ballot. So thank you very much to everyone. Have a great evening.